The débat, resuming debate, the honourable member for Davenport.
Madam Speaker, it is an absolute pleasure for me to rise here today to speak on this Opposition Day motion regarding tax havens. And as always, I am so happy to speak on behalf of the residents of Davenport, who I'm so proud to represent. As I was reminded recently by Davenport residents at a pre-budget consultation I held in November 2017, tax fairness and the federal government continuing to pursue those companies, organizations, and individuals that avoid paying their fair share of taxes is a top priority for them. It is absolutely very important. Madam Speaker, Canadians work hard to support their families, and most do pay their fair share of taxes. In return, Canadians expect that the Government of Canada will work hard on their behalf to ensure that our tax system is responsive and fair, and that their monies are spent on priorities important to Canadians. Over the past 2 years, and I know we've heard this a number of times over the full day today, but I think it warrants repeating. Over the past 2 years, our government has taken concrete action to go after tax evaders with a historic investment of nearly $1 billion in the combined budgets of 2016 and 2017. No other government has invested this much in the Canada Revenue Agency to crack down on tax evasion and to combat tax avoidance. We started in 2016 with an investment of $444 million in the CRA to enhance their ability to detect, audit, and combat tax evasion and avoidance. Because we saw much success, we invested an additional $523.9 million over 5 years. Because of this huge investment, our government has made significant progress in combating offshore tax evasion and aggressive tax avoidance. Madam Speaker, I encourage all of the honourable members of this House to share with their constituents the progress that the Canada Revenue Agency has made in this area and the steps it will take going forward to ensure a more responsive and fair tax system for all Canadians. Madam Speaker, it was just last September that the Honourable Diane Lebouthillier, the Minister of National Revenue, provided an update to all of us, addressing the recommendations made by the House of Commons Standing Committee on Finance and the actions taken by the CRA on this front. It is an absolute pleasure for me to share with you some of the highlights of the CRA's results achieved between April 1st, 2016 through to March 31st, 2017. 335 cases were referred for criminal investigations, 123 search warrants were executed, 32 criminal charges were laid under the Income Tax Act, the Excise Tax Act, and/or the Criminal Code, 37 convictions for tax evasions were made, 10 million in court fines, 50.6 years of jail time were imposed, and more than 111,000 audits were completed, with a fiscal impact of $12.5 billion yielded from audit activities. I should note at this point, Madam Speaker, that while we expect to recover $2.6 billion in revenue from crackdown on tax evasion, this amount does not reflect the gain that's expected to be realized by our provinces and territories across Canada, whose tax revenues will also increase as a result of federal action, investment, and initiatives. Madam Speaker, the issue of tax havens demonstrate quite clearly that tax cheating remains a significant global multi-billion-dollar issue that transcends borders. Not only is Canada taking action here at home, but we are also playing a key role internationally. I'm happy to relay that Canada plays a key role in international intelligence when it comes to combating overseas tax abuse. We share our information, and we get our information, and we get information that helps us to track down evaders. With our partners in the G20, as well as with our partners that are part of the Organization for the Economic Cooperation and Development, Canada has been actively participating in the Multilateral Project on Base Erosion and Profit Sharing, or also known as BEPS, which tackles international tax planning arrangements used by some multinational enterprises to inappropriately minimize their taxes. And just to remind everyone, Canada signed onto the Multilateral Convention to implement tax treaty-related measures to prevent BEPS in June 2017. As part of Canada's choices under the Multilateral Convention, Canada will adopt BEPS standards, including the Treaty Abuse Rule. Our government is committed to working with international partners and is involved in initiatives to better tackle the issue of tax evasion and tax avoidance. Madam Speaker, Canada is heavily engaged in an extensive array of tax treaty networks around the world, having signed on to 92 tax treaties and 22 tax information exchange agreements as of November 2016. In addition, in May 2016, Canada signed the Multilateral Competent Authority Agreement with its OECD and G20 partners to formalize the sharing of information contained in the country-by-country report, or CBCR. CBCR, together with the existing treaties and the BEPS project, will provide Canada with more information to risk assess taxpayers who may be aggressively avoiding or evading taxes offshore. Now, given that our government is fully committed to fighting tax evasion and aggressive tax avoidance, we are establishing a new level of transparency to report results to Canadians. And just as a quick aside, Madam Speaker, I also co-hosted a joint pre-budget consultation with a number of my colleagues just a few weeks ago, and a number of those residents that actually attended the pre-budget consultation indeed verified that they are looking for transparency from the CRA. They want to see public results from the investment that the government, on behalf of all Canadians, is making to recoup taxes, as they believe that with more transparency, there will be more disincentives to those who may be thinking about using offshore tax havens to evade paying their fair share of taxes. Now, Madam Speaker, the Canada Revenue Agency has identified $25 billion in fiscal impact from audit activities over the last 2 years. Almost 2/3 of this was from audits of international, large business, and aggressive tax planning activities. Fiscal impact, by definition, does not imply amounts collected, but amount identified. For offshore-related files alone, as of December 31st, 2017, the Canada Revenue Agency has been conducting audits on more than 1,090 taxpayers and is criminally investigating more than 20 cases of tax evasion. It will continue to apply penalties to all cases of serious non-compliance. Madam Speaker, as mentioned, Canada is collaborating with international partners. We recognize this is crucial to identifying and taking action against those who are evading and avoiding taxes and paying their fair share. In fact, thanks to these actions starting this year, Canada will be able to automatically exchange information with other countries to identify taxpayers with offshore accounts through the OECD Common Reporting Standard. As you may recall, Madam Speaker, legislation was passed in December 2016 to implement the standard in Canada as of July 1st, 2017. This allowed Canada to undertake a first exchange of information with other countries. We have indeed started working with our international treaty partners to obtain information that may not currently be in the agency's possession. Information that will help the government take compliance actions according to the information available in each case, including referrals to the CRA's Criminal Investigations Unit, and where appropriate, the Public Prosecution Service of Canada for possible criminal prosecution. I want to emphasize that the CRA does not depend on legalists such as the Paradise Papers or Panama Papers to tackle the issue of tax evasion and aggressive tax avoidance. Thanks to the government's investment in the CRA, by the time such a leak occurs, the agency is already well advanced in carrying out its work in identifying and pursuing those who are not paying their fair share. Madam Speaker, our government's leadership and contribution to international best practices in this area is providing Canadians with a revenue agency that is world-class, a world-class tax and benefit administration. Canadians expect no less from us, and we are delivering on our promises. The CRA will continue to build on its capacity to detect and combat tax cheating and ensure that those who choose to break the law face the consequences. We will close in on any wealthy individuals or corporations that try to avoid paying their fair share of taxes and that drain resources away from the services that support and improve the lives of all Canadians. Madam Speaker, aggressive tax avoidance and tax evasion continues to be a concern, not only here in Canada, but also abroad. Like most Canadians, I'm frustrated to hear about individuals who try to avoid paying their fair share of taxes. As Canadians know, Madam Speaker, not only is it unfair and against the law, it robs the government of the revenues needed to deliver the programs Canadians have come to rely to improve their quality of life. Hardworking Canadians who pay their fair share of taxes expect the government to do its part to crack down on tax cheating. This is what Canadians expect, and this is what the government will deliver. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Questions and comments? The honourable member of Cowichan, Malahat, Langford.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to my colleague from Davenport for her speech. During the last two election campaigns, both 2011 and 2015, the Liberals made a very clear promise to set a cap on how much can be claimed through the stock option deduction. In Budget 2016, Budget 2017, we still have seen no measures to really tackle this specific problem. And the Liberals' platform, Madam Speaker, even noted that this loophole was used primarily by an estimated 8,000 very high-income Canadians who deduct an average of $400,000 from their taxable incomes via stock options. So I have two very clear questions for the honourable member through you, Madam Speaker. Why have the Liberals abandoned their promise thus far? And does she think that this measure should be included in the 2018 budget?
The honourable member for Davenport.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I'm sorry that this is stuck in my hair here. I think one of the key promises we made in the 2015 election is around tax fairness, and I'm very proud that our government has actually taken a number of steps towards tax fairness. Not only have we, and ad nauseum, we have talked about the $1 billion we've actually invested to actually go after tax evaders and tax cheats, and all the international cooperation agreements that we've actually signed globally to continue to combat tax evaders. But we've also taken a number of moves to move forward on tax fairness. The middle-class tax cuts, the changes around the Canadian-controlled private corporations, the changes around income splitting, the Canada Child Benefit, and the TFSA contribution limit. So all of these are steps that are showing that we consistently are reviewing our tax code, we're looking at our measures, and we are doing all we can to move us towards tax fairness. Thanks so much, Madam Speaker.
Questions and comments? The honourable member for Vancouver East.
Speaker, and I thank the member for her comments as well. The member says that she wants to ensure that there are aggressive measures from the government to go after those who are not paying their fair shares, like tax havens. So then, if she can explain, does she agree with the government's approach in creating additional tax haven treaties with Cook Islands, Antigua, Bermuda, and Grenada? Is that consistent with the rhetoric that we hear from the government? And if she thinks that these loopholes should be closed, will she support this very motion that's before her in the House today?
The honourable member for Davenport.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, and I very much appreciate the honourable member's question. Never before has any other government invested as much money to go after tax evaders and tax avoidance. So that's $1 billion. Yep. That actually allows a significant amount of tools and also enough resources to be able for our CRA working in conjunction with their international partners to go after tax evaders right around the world. And so I'm very proud of the steps we've taken. I know that we're going to continue to take more steps because the issue of tax fairness and going after tax fairness is extremely important to all Canadians. Thanks so much, Madam Speaker.
Questions and comments? The honourable member for Calgary Rocky Ridge.
A quick question.
Yes, a quick question.
How much of that $1 billion was directed to offshore evaders as opposed to domestic tax evasion?
The honourable member for Davenport.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. I think that's an excellent question by the honourable member. I actually don't know the answer to that question. I think it is a great one, and as my colleague is kind of saying in front of me, that might be a great question for a Minister of Finance. But rest assured, every single penny of that, almost $1 billion, is going towards tax fairness and going after tax evaders. Thanks so much.
Resuming